sales enablement, not of Microsoft sellers. This is your sellers, because it doesn't do you any good if the only group within your company who understands Microsoft is the alliance team, right? Because that doesn't scale. You need your salespeople out there doing co-sell with their peers at Microsoft.
We believe this time is like no other. We refer to these as the tectonic shifts.
All the hyperscalers in the world, if you add them all together, managed services will be 1.5 times larger.
Because it is the customer buying behavior that has created the need for all of us to rethink our models.
Until we have data quality, the effectiveness of AI cannot be realized, and effectiveness of the partnerships cannot be realized.
Can you figure out first what your purpose is and how Microsoft can support your purpose and how you can support Microsoft purpose? Now we have a partnership. It's the ultimate partnership.
Welcome to, or welcome back to the Ultimate Guide to Partnering. I'm Vince Menzione, your host, and my mission is to help leaders like you achieve your greatest results through successful partnering. And today I have for you a leader who's helped organizations drive their greatest results as pinnacle partners working with Microsoft. Leigh Ann Campbell was a leader that led one of the largest ISVs to the top partner status working with Microsoft. And today she leads her own company as CEO of Rev Alliances. And I'm privileged to have her join us today here in Boca Raton. Leigh Ann, welcome to Boca.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you. You know, you and I have known each other for several years.
Yeah.
And when I first met you, you were leading one of the largest partnerships working with Microsoft. I thought we'd spend some time talking about your career journey and how you got to this point in your career.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Silicon Valley. So just kind of worked out that tech was where I wanted to be and where I landed. So I have spent over 25 years.
Wow, you're too young to be 25. You started at 10 years old, I'm sure.
Yes. Working in all types of companies within Silicon Valley, right? So I've done the startup thing. I've done the .com thing like we talked about.
Yes.
And, you know, later in my career, I had a great opportunity to lead sales and alliances for companies like PeopleSoft and HPE. So
Very cool.
I feel like I've seen it all.
I bet you have. So tell us about, because the journey to Quest, and my introduction to you was when you were actually leading the alliance strategy for Quest.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, had taken the organization to the pinnacle, working with Microsoft. And I thought maybe you could take us through what that was like, what you found when you got there, and then how you led the organization into that journey.
Yeah, thank you. So when I got there, Quest had already been around for quite some time. I think they were founded in the late 80s, early 90s, right? So their claim to fame with Microsoft was their ability to migrate Office 365, right? So fast forward to when I joined in 2019-ish, they were somewhat struggling to figure out the better together story now that Microsoft had moved on to cloud, right? So my team and I had the opportunity to kind of rebuild that partnership. And so we really started looking at what mattered to Microsoft, what mattered to Quest, and figure out how we can get best of both worlds. And so, 4 years later, we built Quest into the #1 co-sell partner worldwide.
Wow, that's amazing. And I knew Quest from back in my Microsoft days, and they had gone through several lives, I would say.
Yeah.
They were a private company, then they became part of Dell, and they became private again, or I don't remember the path exactly. But when you came there, they really weren't relevant in the Microsoft ecosystem. So how did you get them there? Like, was there any learnings? Or we're going to talk a little bit more about what you do today with partners.
Yeah.
Is there any specific learnings from that experience that you've moved forward with?
Oh my gosh, so many. I would say overall, the value that Quest brought to the table was they really had a wide variety of solutions to help customers, right? So they touched all areas of Microsoft except for Dynamics. So the message that we were bringing to the Microsoft sellers were, we can do it all. Like, just pick. We've got 25 solutions in the marketplace and 25 co-sell approved products. Just pick, because we can be your one-stop shop. And I thought, wow, they're going to be banging down my door for all these opportunities, when in reality, nobody needs everything. They have a very specific need, right? And so we went through several years of kind of rebuilding our messaging to make it be more focused, to figure out who within Microsoft would care about that, get compensated on it, right? And so that we could build a joint go-to-market strategy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you left to go on your own and you started Rev Alliances. So tell us a little bit more about Rev Alliances.
Yeah, so Rev Alliances really came out after we made it to the top with Microsoft as their #1 partner. For co-sell, we had won Partner of the Year awards, right? I felt like, wow, we've really done this. I had a lot of friends and colleagues back in Silicon Valley who were saying, hey, what were your best practices? What did you do? Could you help me? And I thought, wow, this feels like the logical next step. So I made that move and have been helping partners for about 2 years now.
Very cool. And you work with both ISVs, independent software vendors, which, by the way, we're now calling software companies after my conversation with Jason Grafey. They're redefining the category. And then you also work with SI organizations.
Yep.
Can you elaborate on how you're helping these companies achieve more?
Absolutely. So my learnings from my time at Quest, as well as all the other organizations I've had the chance to work with, I developed a methodology called FAME. FAME, right? And it's a
great song too.
It is a great song. I will not sing it for you.
Nor will I.
And FAME is based on what I saw, at my time with Quest, but what I've also seen across all size organizations. Everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame.
Yes.
Whether it's your CEO being on stage with Satya Nadella, or your sales executives actually engaging with their peers at a large partner like Microsoft to drive sales, or your salespeople getting their phone calls returned from sellers wanting to drive business together, right?
Difficult.
Yeah, so everyone wants that 15 minutes or hopefully more with your partner. And so at my time with Quest, I figured out how to really simplify this whole process of how do you build a partnership and get it to market and drive revenue and pipeline faster. And so that's really what FAME is. And
okay, I want to know, you're going to have to tease this out for me.
I will. I would love to.
An acronym that's
yes.
for something. Right?
Yes. So FAME stands for Focus, Audience, Message, and Execution.
Okay.
And so you drill down into each one, but I think focus is obviously a hard place to start because, again, if people think I can do it all, or they think I'm a global company, so I want to touch every continent with my solution, my recommendation is start small, build your brand with, that sales play or that sales audience or that industry or that location, and then expand from there. And that's what we had to do.
Focus means different things to me. Sometimes it's clarity. Like this is clarity. Like what is the specific thing you want to go achieve? Yeah. And then I always talk about maniacal focus, which is another execution level of focus. Right. Where just the attention to detail on the execution. But what you're saying here is you want to take and focus in an area where you believe intuitively you can be very successful, land that first is the way I understand it. Yes. And then build from there.
Absolutely. Or start somewhere where you already are successful, right? Because it's easy to do the win wires. It's easy to share your success and get people excited about working with you when you've already got the demonstrated success.
Very cool. And then when you're working with an organization, how do you help them get to that point on focus?
I dive deep into their area of expertise. We look a lot at sales, past sales to see, is there an area, is there an industry where you have strength? And we kind of start with that, as well as their product focus, obviously, because Microsoft has individual product groups as well, right? And so if your product drives a ton of Azure, let's go focus on my next one, which is audience. Let's go focus your message on the Azure audience, the Azure sellers at Microsoft. So that's step 2 is the audience. Message is tricky. You would think customers, my partners think, we've got a whole marketing department. We've got great messaging. Yes, but is your messaging to your end customer or is it to a Microsoft seller to really understand your better together story?
What should it be?
It should be your better together story, right? It should be, here's how I can help the customer and here's how I can help you, how I can help you land and expand in your business, with the partner.
Let's go back to audience for a second.
Yeah.
Because I remember a slide that you've shared when we've done presentations together. And it's very interesting because I think a lot of people don't recognize this piece. in that it's not one person at Microsoft, right? And
Right.
that's where you try to get to with the audience component, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
Absolutely.
And that I think that's where I think a lot of partnerships fail, in that I've got a relationship with somebody and that's where I'm going to be successful. Tell me more about how you help them kind of navigate Microsoft.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows Microsoft is one of the largest companies in the world, and it's really complicated to navigate. And my first question is always, what's your scorecard? How are you measured? What does success look like for you as a seller at Microsoft? Because once I understand that, then I can figure out, are you the right person to be working with on this opportunity or not? And I can't tell you how many times people skip that question and they think, oh, I've got a resource, I've got somebody who I can talk to at Microsoft. Unfortunately, they don't get paid on what you're, focused on.
Yeah.
Makes it hard.
And then also the account executive is not necessarily the only seat at the table with the customer.
Absolutely.
In fact, in many cases, they're the least frequent seat at the table, and there's a whole team. They're like the quarterback.
Right.
And there's an entire team. There's a front line, and there's the whole team is there
Yes.
supporting them. So how do you help them with that component? Because that's also a very complex.
Yep.
I think it's hard for other organizations, ISVs and SIs alike,
Yep.
to figure out that component of it.
The AE, everyone thinks the account executive, I just need to get to the account executive. And they're at that 50,000 foot level, like you said, the quarterback, to make sure that their customer needs are being met from a bunch of different specialists, right? And so when I was at Quest, we sold into large enterprises who had 15 to 20 different sellers, specialists across the board. You have an Azure specialist, a modern work specialist. The time you had a data and AI specialist, right? Business application.
Part of the business.
Yes. Yes. And so that's part of the exercise with focus at the very beginning, right? Is, okay, so let's figure out where your product fits within Microsoft, and then we can dive deep into the right audience. And then the connection magically happens and people want to talk to you because you're speaking their language.
So let's talk about the E in fame.
Okay. I've changed it up a bit. Now it's E squared.
E squared.
E squared, yes.
So it's fame square.
Sort of, yes. The E stands for enablement, sales enablement, not of Microsoft sellers. This is your sellers, because it doesn't do you any good if the only group within your company who understands Microsoft is the alliance team, right? Because that doesn't scale. You need your salespeople out there doing co-sell with their peers at Microsoft. And so enablement is really teaching your sellers how to speak Microsoft 101, how are they organized, how to prepare for a account planning session with a rep. The hardest part is helping them understand to bring an ask with them.
Yes.
You'd be surprised how many reps, they get in a room and then the Microsoft seller says, what can I do to help? And they're like, nothing, I'm good. No, you need to bring an ask. And so that's so enablement. And then the second part is execution.
Okay.
And so back to your maniacal focus on execution, it's showing up every day prepared to have those conversations with Microsoft. It's Partner Center, right? There's a lot being talked about with Partner Center and Marketplace, and it's a lot. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Let's peel back on this a little bit, because we both have been in the room with these partners. I went back inside to an ISV for 2 years, and I got to see how difficult it was to get people to understand how to work with Microsoft.
Right.
So what do you do there? I know you had to do it at Quest, and now you've done it with other organizations, Rev Alliances. And it is often that the sales team just doesn't understand, right?
Right.
What their role is here and their expectations. So I want to kind of peel back a little bit on the expectation piece.
I think that's a really good point. In my experience, your fastest path to success with your Microsoft partnership is having buy-in from your CRO.
Yeah.
The CRO, if you can align your KPIs or your goals and objectives to your CRO's sales goals, he or she will be your best friend and your biggest advocate and really drive that message along with you to their sellers, right? Versus if you're the alliance team saying, here's something else you need to do and remember, and another group of people I'm going to help you build trust with, that's a tough road. right? But if it starts with you and the CRO, you're going to be successful.
So how do you set expectations accordingly with the CRO? Because some of them just don't get it.
Well, you have to speak their language, which is sales pipeline and revenue.
Yeah.
So you start with that, right? You talk about Microsoft being, in 99% of every account your CRO is going to want to break into. I would start there. I would talk about Microsoft's ability to influence opportunities, which I think it's overlooked a lot, right?
Yes.
CROs are saying, I want net new opportunities, net new logos, and pipeline. Yes, that's all good. That's all good. But Microsoft can actually help influence an opportunity for you in a couple different ways. One would be, one-to-one seller prep for an opportunity. You could be talking about, they could help you understand the procurement process and some challenges you might face, and really just help you what other partners are in there that you should be working with, things like that you might not know, right?
That's right. They have situational awareness of the whole customer.
Absolutely.
Spectrum there. The 7 seats at the table we like to talk about.
Exactly. Right. So I think you mentioned setting expectations. I think if you work with your CRO and help them understand the value that Microsoft can actually bring, which is, again, it's influence, it's potentially down the road net new opportunities, but you have to crawl before you walk or run, right?
I love that piece. And then also, you were talking about like some of the ways that they help. I mean, I've actually seen an account executive go into an account where the customer wanted to go in a different direction, and they've leaned the customer into your direction because they felt like you were the better solution. If you build these relationships, right?
Yeah, and it's all about building trust. And the fastest way to do that with a Microsoft seller is to, make it easy, right? Be a partner that's easy to work with, be able to speak their language. Again, that's why the enablement piece is so important for the seller, and execute and follow through.
You talked about scorecard, and I think that's an overlooked area as well, because partners show up and they're like, I got the best solution. I got the most technologically efficient people. I'm the best price. Like they come in with, especially SIs do this. I remember with some of the big SIs that I worked with, they just didn't understand that scorecard component with the win for the Microsoft side. Maybe you could spend a few moments on that with us.
Yeah, so all this, we talked about the complexity of the Microsoft sales organization. And so each team, as you know, has a different scorecard. They're measured on different things, right, within the account. And so being able to understand that and align yourself to that scorecard is ultimately going to help be a win-win for you and the Microsoft rep. But it's also helpful to know if you're not aligned, right? Because then you're not wasting your time.
So let's talk about some of your clients and the work that you've been doing at Rev Alliances. How about an example for our viewers and listeners today of how you've helped an organization get to that next level? I like to talk about achieving your greatest results.
Yeah.
Because it's measurably different for every organization to say growth of 30%, or we're going to drive X number of dollars in net new revenue and so on.
Right.
Give us an example of some of the work that you've done.
Yeah, so one that comes to mind is a very large enterprise data company. And this is slightly different than what we've been talking about with sales, where they had a co-sell rhythm with Microsoft and it was going relatively well. But what they really wanted was some deeper product integration. That's really where they felt like that was the next step for them.
Interesting.
And while they had contacts, they were just struggling to get anything to move forward. Right. And so they brought me in. We kind of revisited Fame with them. And, I think we spent the most time on focus because their data platform really plugged into a lot of different areas within Microsoft. So we said, let's hone the focus, right, on what Microsoft really is driving right now. And let's reach out to the team and try to drive that message together. So we worked on that. We did quite a bit of product integration. We also continued to show support through co-sell. There was obviously a ton of co-sell engagement, marketplace, all of that. But at the end of about 6 months, we had this partner on stage with Microsoft at Ignite announcing their new product integration.
Very cool. And you had to work with a different set of people or even organizations at Microsoft in this case, right?
Yes.
You're not just working with the field sales organization. Right. You're working with the product group.
Yep.
Do you find that that's easier or harder?
Gosh, it's just different.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's easier or harder, but what I have learned is that we don't assume that because you're talking to one part of Microsoft, that the other part of Microsoft knows what's happening or about the goodness that you're driving, right?
Let's listen here carefully to those who are watching us today, because this is something I see so often. Oh, Microsoft loves us. They told us they want to work with us.
Right.
And they want us to, and then you find out that the people that you were talking to are totally disconnected from the organization that really matters, that are facing the customer.
It happens. And I mean, it happens in all large organizations. It's not unique to Microsoft. And I think, everyone's got their priorities and their focus, and the product team wants to build the best product with the best integration they can. Yes. And that's what they're going to go focus on. So, yeah.
So, I keep talking about this time of tectonic shifts. We talk about the world is changing rapidly. It's just amazing, right? We're living in 2025, and I go back to October when we did our last event, and now to today, and so much has changed even since then, right?
Right.
We are in a time, new administration. We've been talking about acceleration of change with technology and AI, but even in the last month or two, new administration, Stargate, huge investments in AI, big changes in the tech landscape. We have I call it the deep seek moment now. Like everybody, the world got disrupted. NVIDIA lost like an incredible amount of, I think it was $600 billion of value in one
day.
It was crazy. And now we've almost forgotten about that moment.
Right.
And, kind of anticipating what the next moment's been.
Yeah.
How are you helping the organizations you work with navigate through the change?
Gosh, there's plenty of it. I would say fame, just to go back to fame, I would say it keeps you grounded, right? Because you can build a business plan. You can really understand your path forward with Microsoft, specifically with this framework. And so it's easy to chase the next shiny thing, right? Or, whatever's on the horizon. But you need to stay focused so that you can show success and then go from there, right? So I do feel like I spend a lot of time pulling my customers back, right? Reminding them, remember, we agreed on this focus area. And they're like, that's right. So I would say, fame really helps me do that.
I love it. Bring them back to the point, right? Bring them back to where the most important matters are. That's what you have to drive and have the framework around it so there's some predictability through the change.
Right.
So you've been part of our community. We talked a little bit about this. Like I've known you for several years now. When we first started up Ultimate Partner, we did the mastermind, partnered on that.
Right.
That was the first time I got to see you up on stage and talking about fame, which has been incredible. You've been part of our Ultimate Partner Experience community. So excited to have you along on the journey. We've done some work together over the years. I know this, but I think for our audience, I would love for them to hear from you what makes Rev Alliances unique and the value you bring to them that is different, I believe, than what a lot of other organizations, consulting organizations, or co-selling organizations do different.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for including me in Ultimate Partner. And this journey has really been fun.
We're having fun.
It's very fun, yeah. So I would say experience is really what's unique about me and Rev Alliances. So unlike, I would say, some competitors out there, I've personally never worked at Microsoft, which you might think is a negative. I see it as a positive because I had to figure out Microsoft from the outside, right? I had to figure out how to break down barriers and how to gain access to places that I couldn't otherwise, right?
Okay.
So 5+ years of experience, it kind of hitting my head against the wall, right? Is now, it shows up in fame, and it shows up every time I work with a client. So my company, Rev Alliances, the name Rev kind of plays on revenue, right? And also
Kind of important,
but also what I think is unique about Rev is that we help customers get there faster. I help my partners get to revenue, get to pipeline faster, right? And I do that because of that experience that I've had.
And that's a term too that the CRO implicitly understands, right?
Right.
Because they want to get to revenue faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that name and I love the branding.
Yeah. Thank you.
So cool. So what's on the horizon? Like we have a lot of great things we're going to be doing together. You're going to be doing more work with us in the community, sharing some more of your knowledge with our Ultimate Partner Experience community. But where do you see Rev Alliances in 5 years?
It's a great question. I'm like a lot of people, I'm thinking about AI, and I'm wondering, how can I use that, right, to really serve more clients? Because right now, a one-to-one engagement, while it's my favorite thing to do, it doesn't scale, right? To 15, 20, 50 clients at a time. And so I'm in the works right now to apply AI to my FAME framework so that, with maybe a lighter touch, I can help more partners more efficiently, as well as, engage one-on-one as needed. So I'm excited to roll out something soon.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to switch to the rapid fire.
Okay.
We're testing this new area out for us, and I want to ask you a few questions that I think might be.
Love it.
Talk a little bit more about like the world that you live in and how you got to this point.
Okay.
So what book has influenced you the most, Leigh Ann?
I most recently read Atomic Habits. And that one really,
James Cleary.
Yes, that one, it's not often that I don't read, that I would read something nonfiction cover to cover, but I couldn't put it down. And, the whole idea of habit stacking has really helped me kind of, especially as I've built out Rev Alliances.
Very cool. And what did you get from the habit stacking? Was there anything specifically that it helped you improve on?
Absolutely. So as an entrepreneur, right, there's a lot of things I love to do, and there's a lot of things I don't love to do, like back office things that, you don't really think about when you're launching business. And so it's kind of taught me how to avoid procrastinating on those things, right, by stacking something that I love to do with something that I don't love to do. Yeah.
So what's one habit you can't live without?
I would say my morning coffee outside on my patio. So rain or shine, seriously, for the past 8 to 9 years, I have to have my first cup of coffee outside, and I might be wearing like a down jacket or, it might be raining. It doesn't matter, because it's just that chance to breathe in the new day, and just start the day with a positive, fresh outlook. You know what I mean? A fresh outlook on life.
So is there a mantra that inspires you? Is there something that inspires you?
There is, and I actually recite it when I'm having my coffee every morning. And so it's be present, take action, and have fun. Wow. Those are my
present, take action,
have fun. And the have fun part is probably the most important part, because, we're so wrapped up in our to-do lists and, overachieving and all those things. And at the end of the day, life is short. You need to have fun.
Which is hardest in the three?
For me personally, I would say taking action sometimes is hard. And I say that because, we tend to overthink, right? Or we let trying to be perfect get in the way of actually executing, right? So that's something I'm working on this year.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So what does mastery mean to you? We've had Michael Gervais on the podcast, Finding Mastery. And what does mastery mean to you?
Mastery to me means simplification.
Okay.
Right? There's a saying, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Very cool.
Right? And I think that's what I bring to the table for my clients, for my experiences, right? There's so much you could do with Microsoft, literally. There's new programs every day. They do so much for their partners. But if you simplify things, right, and if you stay true to your focus,
yes,
you can really simplify and streamline and get to that revenue target, get to your pipeline, get to your 15 minutes of fame on stage with Satya. You can get there so much faster, but you have to be clear and keep it simple. And I think if you can do that, then you can master anything.
So good. So I have a favorite question to ask almost every guest. And you're hosting a dinner party. And you can host this dinner party anywhere in the world. We could talk about locations, in fact. Maybe Boca might be a good location. But you can invite any 3 guests from the present or the past to this amazing dinner party. Whom would you invite, Leigh Ann, and why?
Gosh, only 3?
Well, yeah. Well, we can talk about changing the rules.
Yeah, okay. All right. We'll stick with
focus on
okay. Fair. I'll pick 3. Okay, this is going to be a crazy dinner party, right? So first of all, it needs to be in Hawaii.
Crazy like party? Like
Just who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
Nice.
But Hawaii for sure.
Okay.
Right, my favorite place in the world.
spend some time there.
I have. So number 1, it's Tommy Lasorda.
Oh, wow.
Tommy Lasorda was the general manager for the Dodgers, and I am a huge Dodger fan, and I have been my whole life. Yep. So I've heard he is quite a character. I did get a chance to meet him once.
Did you?
Yep. Yep. And love him, and would just love to talk to him about his management style. And I'm sure he has some crazy stories as well.
Yeah, and he's a
Yep. So he's number 1. Number 2, I'm leaning toward Princess Diana.
okay.
I just, she's so full of grace. She was a wonderful mother, human, did so much for people. Would love to hear from her. And then the last one, you're going to laugh. I'm going to say Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen. Wow. Yes. I'm a huge 80s rock fan.
Okay.
And
Big hair and everything.
sure, absolutely. And he, obviously he's amazing. Amazing. And I would, he could be the musical entertainment for the night.
Oh my goodness, what a great group.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to come along and bring
Please.
dessert or a beverage.
Please.
So Tommy Lasorda, I got to see the Yankees and the Dodgers play when I was young, growing up
Yeah.
in the New York area, and got to see Tommy Lasorda
Yeah.
from a distance
Mm-hmm.
in the dugout. But wow, what a great, and he always bled Dodger blue. I remember that was his famous saying.
Yes. Yes.
A passionate human being.
Yes.
Lady Di, of course, just, what an incredible human. And Eddie Van Halen, I'm rocking it out. I love that music.
Yeah, me too.
Very cool.
Yep.
Leigh Ann,
Yep.
it's been such a pleasure spending time with you today. I'm so glad you
Thank
come
you.
to Boca.
Me too.
All the way from San Francisco. It's a
Yep.
long trip, and we do appreciate you doing that. And for our listeners and viewers, maybe some advice for them on how they can optimize for success as we really dive in to 2025.
Well, if you're not working with Microsoft, I definitely would recommend looking into that, especially if your product supports any of the Microsoft platforms. And then going forward, I have to go back to fame, obviously. Stay focused on your strength, right? Don't chase too many shiny objects, and you will be successful. And I will say, if your viewers out there would like to contact me, revalliances.com
Sure.
or on LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me.
Great.
And I'd love to help.
And you're Leigh Ann Campbell on LinkedIn as well. So
Yes,
are you the only Leigh Ann Campbell?
of course.
Okay, that's wonderful. So I want to thank you. I want to thank Leigh Ann. I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for
I want to
having me.
thank all our viewers and listeners for following along on our path and our journey to help you achieve more. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our podcast. If you're following on Apple or Spotify, you can hit the subscribe button. And you could also follow us on our new YouTube channel. And getting more subscribers to YouTube also helps us get more views and helps us get more amazing guests like Leigh Ann to join us. I want to thank you for following and listening to this episode of The Ultimate Guide to Partnering. And you could also follow along by joining us on our website. There you'll find information about our events, every episode of the podcast, and you can subscribe to our free newsletter. So join us by coming to theultimatepartner.com.